Listening, fill in the blanks.
Let's start.
In fact, neem has been used traditionally in India to protect stored grains from insects and to produce soaps, skin lotions, and other health products. To protect crops from insects, neem seeds are simply ground into a powder that is soaked overnight in water. The solution is then sprayed onto theckrop. Another preparation, neem cake, can be mixed into thistle to kill pests and diseases in the soil, and it doubles as an organic fertilizer high in nitrogen. Neem trees grow locally, so the only cost is the labor to prepare neem for application to fields.
The most important resource in the NPM toolkit was the neem tree, Azadirachta indica, which is common throughout much of India. Neem tree is a broad-leaved evergreen tree related to mahogany. It protects itself against insects by producing a multitude of natural pesticides that work in a variety of ways, with an arsenal of chemical defenses that repel laying, interfere with insect growth, and most important, disrupt the ability of crop-eating insects to sense their food. It is no longer a privilege for children to attend school, and all children are expected to spend a significant part of their day in a classroom. Once in school, children's lives could be separated from domestic life and the adult world of work. In this way, school turns into an institution dedicated to shaping the minds, behavior, and morals of the young. Besides, education dominated the management of children's waking hours through the hours spent in the classroom, homework, the growth of after-school activities, and the importance attached to parental involvement.
Whether childhood is itself a recent invention has been one of the most intensely debated issues in the history of childhood. Historian Felipe Aries asserted that children were regarded as miniature adults, with all the intellect and personality that this implies, in Western Europe during the Middle Ages, up to about the end of the 15th century. After scrutinizing medieval pictures and diaries, he concluded that there was no distinction between children and adults, for they shared similar leisure, activities and work. However, this does not mean children were neglected, forsaken or despised, he argued. The idea of childhood corresponds to awareness about the peculiar nature of childhood. This lack of flooding harmed local wildlife. The humpback chub, for example, thrived in the rust-red waters of Colorado. Recently, though, its population has crashed. At first sight, it looked as if the reason was that the chub were being eaten by trout introduced for sport fishing in the mid-20th century, but trout and chub coexisted until Thegland Canyon Dam was built, so something else is going on. Steve Gloss, of the United States Geological Survey, USGS, reckons that the chub's decline is the result of their losing their most valuable natural defense, Colorado's rusty sediment. The chub were well adapted to the poor visibility created by the chick, red water, which gave the river its name and depended on it to hide from predators. Without the cloudy water, the chub became vulnerable. Floods can occur in rivers when the flow rate exceeds the capacity of the river channel, particularly at bends or meanders in the waterway. Floods often cause damage to homes and businesses if they are in the natural floodplains of rivers. While riverine flood damage can be eliminated by moving away from rivers and other bodies of water, people have traditionally lived and worked by rivers because the land is usually flat and fertile, and because rivers provide easy travel and access to commerce and industry. For the moment, those benefiting most from the spoken corpus are foreign learners. Computers allow lexicographers to search quickly through more examples of real English, said Professor Jeffrey Leach of Lancaster University. They allow dictionaries to be more accurate and give a feel for how language is being used. The spoken corpus is part of the larger British National Corpus, an initiative carried out by several groups, involved in the production of language learning materials, publishers, universities and the British Library. Such lasting fame would have shocked the humble Grimms. During their lifetimes the collection sold modestly in Germany, at first only a few hundred copies a year. The early editions were not even aimed at children. The brothers initially refused to consider illustrations, and scholarly footnotes took up almost as much space as the Tauks themselves. Jacob and Wilhelm viewed themselves as patriotic folklorists, not as entertainers of children. They began their work at a time when Germany had been overrun by the French under Napoleon, who were intent on suppressing local culture. As young, workaholic scholars, single and sharing a cramped flat, the brothers Grimm undertook the fairy tale collection with the goal of serving the endangered oral tradition of Germany, capital English zone. Working at the Jotten-Sach Biological Research Station on the banks of the Rio Napo, Beccoloni focused his attention on a group of butterflies called Etomines. These distant relatives of Britain's Camberwell beauty are abundant throughout Central and South America and the Caribbean. They are famous for their bright colors, toxic bodies and complex mimetic relationships. They can comprise up to 85% of the individuals in a mimicry ring, and their patterns are mimicked not just by butterflies, but by other insects as diverse as damselflies and true bugs, says Philip DeVries of the Milwaukee Public Museum Center for Biodiversity Studies. Broadly speaking, proponents of CS have used for arguments to make their case: moral obligation, sustainability, license to operate, and reputation. The moral appeal, arguing that companies have a duty to be good citizens and to do the right thing, is prominent in the Goloff Business for So.el Responsibility, the leading nonprofit CSR business association in the United States. It asks that its members achieve commercial success in ways that honor ethical values and respect people, communities, and the natural environment. Sustainability emphasizes environmental and community stewardship,